The Diofield Chronicle is a strategy tactical RPG by Square Enix that follows a group called the Blue Foxes on their various missions within the Kingdom of Alatane. They go from being a band of mercenaries working smaller missions that have a minimal impact on the overall grand scheme of, the kingdom, to eventually having a hand in the shaping of the entire continent and the power struggle that goes on within the continent. So today, we're going to have a quick chat about the game, we're going to discuss the pros and the cons of it, and I'm going to give you my final verdict on the Diofield Chronicle. And I will quickly say that the game was provided to me by Square Enix, so thank you very much to Square Enix for providing me with this copy of the game. I had a great time with it, if I'm being honest, but let's break it down and let's talk about the pros and cons, because there are cons. There are definitely cons. Don't forget, hit like on the video and subscribe to future content. The like helps so much because it tells YouTube that more people want to see it, and subscribing obviously helps because we're really close to 1k, so, give us that nudge over the edge. You never know, we might already be there by the time you're watching this, who knows. But that's enough of that, let's crack on with this review and let's talk about the Diofield Chronicle. So I'm going to start off with the pros, and there is a pretty substantial list of pros if I'm going to be completely honest. I enjoyed the game quite a bit, and one of the main reasons for that was the combat. So the combat takes a real-time tactical battle approach. That's how the marketing describes it, that's how Square Enix describe it. And it very much feels like a merger of like the old real-time strategy games that you used to play, like Red Alert and like StarCraft and things like that. And then your tactical JRPGs like your Tactics Ogre, your Final Fantasy Tactics, things like that. It's kind of like an amalgamation of the two systems, which I'm quite down with it. It's enjoyable. At first I was a little bit about it, but as I played it a little bit more and I got into it, it is quite enjoyable. It starts off at a reasonably steady pace. You've not got the full catalogue of characters that you get, so you drop in less actions in combat and things like that. But gradually as time goes on, you add more characters to the roster, and you then become able to, drop a lot of damage on enemies because you've got multiple characters all flinging special attacks at certain times, and it works quite nicely. So yeah, the combat, it gradually ramps its way up. And in the same way that the intensity and the speed of the combat ramps its way up and how much is going on at any given time, the difficulty also follows a similar curve. I think there was only one, maybe two instances that I found where I needed to actually just stop, go and replay a couple of missions and grind levels. The main reason that I found myself having to replay missions was to get gold, which is the currency in the game, and you use that to buy weapons, to upgrade the facilities. So you do run out of gold a fair bit because some of the weapons, the higher end weapons, are very expensive. The upgrades that you have to pay for start off reasonably cheap, but gradually become more and more expensive. That'll probably be the thing that you grind for the most, if I'm being honest. Currency. That'll be the main thing that you go for. Currency and some of the resources that you'll need to research weapons. And speaking of researching weapons, every single character has got like a tree of weapons that you can go through, and each weapon comes obviously with their own stats, but they also come with a variety of different attacks. So you can tailor which path you go down as far as weapon development based on the attacks that you're interested in. But yeah, like I say, in general, not overly grindy, a good difficulty curve, and the combat intensity ramps up gradually as you're going through the game. It's pretty good. There was a couple of instances where I found myself getting absolutely stomped, but you just go grind a little bit, pick up some resources, maybe upgrade a weapon or two, go back in, and you're good to go. The standard way you do these things in JRPGs, the way you do these things. And like I was speaking about a moment ago, where you've got different trees for each character and you can customize the abilities that come with each weapon, the party variety kind of feeds into that as well. So you can tweak the party that you're going to take out dependent on what the mission is, what your preferred style is, and things like that. So the way that the party is broke up, you go into combat with 4 units, and you have to have a leader in each of those units, and then you can also have a secondary character in each unit. So you can have 2 characters. The lead character is the one that determines the passive traits and the special attributes and things like that. The secondary character is just there to add a little bit more variety of attacks to your repertoire. So say, the way I did it was I had 4 separate units and each one of them had its specific type. So I had my melee warriors, I had my ranged fighters, I had my magic fighters, and then I had my mounted category, that's it, mounted. And that was the way I set it up. I had like the same characters together and I just dealt with that unit as its own entity. And I'll be honest, I didn't have to stray from that format all the way through the game. That may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing. But you can change up the variety as much as you want. You can pick which characters you want, you can pick which combinations of characters that you want. It's up to you how you go about it. That was just the way that I did it. But the variety is there, in order to fit your gameplay style or what you want to do, really. Like, even your favourite characters, if you've got a character that you prefer, throw them in there, you'll be fine. And speaking of the characters, not all characters are created equal, and you kind of have like 3 different tiers of characters in this game from what I can... That would be my assessment, at least. You have your main characters, which is, you know, the team, which you come to learn is Andreas, Frederick, Iscarian, and Walter Quinn. That's the main 4. They are the core 4, and they are definitely the characters that are involved in the story more than anybody else, the characters that have the most agency, and the characters that get the most done. So they're like your main 4. Then you have like your second tier of characters, who are the ones where you'll do a few missions kind of following their side story, you'll get involved with them a little bit more, you'll have more conversations with them. These are characters like Rickles, Catherine, Shiva, characters like that. There are a few of them. And then you've got like the tier below them, which they kind of feel like they're just there to make up the numbers. You might do one mission with them. This doesn't necessarily mean you won't use them in combat, because, like, for example, Zoroark, you don't really get him until near the end. You don't get much time to explore his story or his character, but you will use him in combat. I did, at least. As soon as he joined, he was straight in. That's all I'll say about Zoroark. Now, the bottom tier of characters don't really do that much, like I say. The middle tier of characters, they're quite compelling. Like, Rickles became a channel favourite without question. She's an amazing character, she's good in combat, she's fun. Rickles for the win. But when you get to the top tier characters like your Walter Quinn, Andreas, Frederick, and Iscarian, these are the characters that have got like the most agency in the story. They're the ones that you see the most, you kind of get to delve into their background a little bit. Not necessarily as much as I'd like, and that's something that we'll come back to when we get round to the cons. But yeah, they are the main characters that you get all the details about, and you kind of see them interacting with the world and with each other a lot more than anybody else. And for a group of 4 characters, I would say that they're all pretty good. I mean, Andreas is clearly the main character, the lead character, but I'd also say he's probably the least interesting right up until the very end of the game, where you do start to get a few little hints about Andreas that there's something a bit different going on. But yeah, I won't go too much into that. No spoilers here today. I'm not going to spoil too much. But Iscarian, he's extremely political, extremely active, and extremely all about like what's best for the people, and not necessarily the biggest fan of the monarchy. He's got a really interesting character arc. Him and Frederick clash a lot, which is something that you'll understand as you play through the game. And Walter Quinn is crazy. Just seriously, Walter Quinn is the best thing about this game. Like, that's it. Just Walter Quinn fan club. This is the Walter Quinn fan club. Now, the narrative of the game that all these characters feed into is pretty enjoyable. It's a bit generic. You've got essentially a resource war going on. So on the main continent, on Diofield, where the story takes place, there's a resource called Jade, which is used in pretty much all ancient sorcery, but it's also used in modern magic, which is something that's utilised quite heavily by the Empire, which exists off the island on the mainland continent. You also have the Alliance over there, which is a group that's rebelling against the Empire, trying to resist them and trying to maintain their own individuality and their own sovereignty. But they also are interested in getting the Jade off Diofield, because that would then help them defeat the Empire. So you end up with everybody obviously coming to Diofield, trying to get the Jade and trying to get involved, and this causes a lot of problems within Diofield as the story progresses. Like I say, it's the overall concept is it's a resource war. That's kind of the overall concept, and that is quite generic. But what that then causes, it triggers a lot of political intrigue, a lot of political manoeuvring, and a lot of uprising in Diofield itself, in the Kingdom of Alatain. And that's where a lot of the interesting points of the story come in, the interactions between the characters, the twists and turns that you go on this journey. Like I say, I wouldn't say it's the best example of this kind of political intrigue and this kind of gameplay narrative, but it's good. It's solid, it's enjoyable, and it's a good vehicle alongside the gameplay to have a good time. That's what I found with it. There are a few twists that are really good and add to the narrative positively, even if they could do with a little bit more fleshing out as far as what goes down and the reasons why and things like that. But it's something that I will touch on, but only briefly, because it will spoil a lot if I go into too much detail, so I'm not going to do that. And then the final point that we'll get to is the visuals and the audio. And the music was solid. It was pretty consistent throughout the game. There wasn't anything that made me sit there and go, oh my god, this music is amazing, but there wasn't anything that made me sit there and go, what is this music? It was just good. It was just solidly good music throughout the game. It fit the tone of the game. Certain times it'd ramp up when you were in combat, other times it'd be a bit more chill. It was good. I enjoyed the music. The visuals are really good, I think. Like, I enjoyed the visuals thoroughly. It's kind of like a diorama-esque approach to the visuals, and they pulled it off. They definitely pulled it off. There are a few moments where sometimes things get a little bit repetitive visually, because you're looking at essentially the same sort of battlefields over and over again, even though the topography is a bit different. You are kind of seeing the same assets over and over again, so that's a little bit repetitive, but on the whole, visually impressive, especially when you get to like the cutscenes, which is like special summons. So Bahamut looks amazing. Some of the other summons look really good as well. The special attacks that you can get. So like I was talking about the weapons earlier on, and you can research different levels of weapon. Eventually you will research a level of weapon that gives a character access to a special attack. And when like a really special attack, not just a special attack, a super special attack. And when you use that, you get like a little FMV cutscene. All of those look phenomenal as well. Yeah, visually, no issues whatsoever, really. Except for maybe it gets a little bit repetitive, but the way I played the game, I did every single side mission. You don't necessarily need to do that. You can just kind of gun through the story a little bit if you want to. So that's probably what fed into it becoming a little bit repetitive for me, that I literally did every mission. And that's pretty much all of the pros for me. There are some cons, there are some bad points to this game, things that I wish were different, and we're going to talk about them briefly. But I mean, given all the positives that I've just gone through, I'm pretty sure you can tell where I'm going with this game. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but we'll get around to that for the conclusion. Now, like we touched on earlier, the story is quite generic. Like I said, it's still enjoyable, but it is quite generic, and some people will find that to be an issue. So, if you're kind of bored of the general tropey kind of storylines that you get, this might not be the one for you, but hopefully the gameplay can carry it through for you. That's what I'd say. The big issue for me with the story wasn't the fact it was a little bit generic, but the thing that really got to me was there were a lot of moments and conversations that kind of ended when I feel like they should have continued. So I can't go into too much detail because some of them are extremely heavy twists. One of them is the ending. But I can forgive the ending, to be honest with you, because it kind of feels like they're leaving it on a bit of a cliffhanger. That's all the details that I'm going to go into on that. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. I am uploading my playthrough of the Diofield Chronicle on my second channel, set to 6.5, what a name. So go check that out if you're interested in seeing what the game's all about, seeing a bit of the gameplay. Jump over there, check it out. Hit the sub button as well while you're there. Why not? But there were conversations that you feel like should go on. So there's a moment, you acquire a character called Castivate, and he's a deserter from the Alliance forces, if I remember correctly. I think he was one of Dalmazio's guys. Dalmazio, who's one of the Alliance leaders. See, you're getting information. And he's kind of deserted from that troop, and he joins you. And he hints at the fact that he was going to be imprisoned, or he had been imprisoned for something that he hadn't done in the Empire, or in... I'm possibly remembering where he came from wrong. It might have been the Empire that he came from. But either way, he was going to be imprisoned or executed for something that he claims he hadn't done, which was kill a lot of people. And then you get to the end of the conversation, and he basically says, well, I mean, yeah, I did it, but let's not talk about that. And then the conversation just ends. And to me, that was something, that's not the worst example of it, trust me. But there are several examples of that going forward where it's like, all right, that conversation definitely wouldn't have ended there. Or, okay, that cutscene just happened. Please give me a little bit more explanation on that. Because, yeah, there's a scene that happens, I believe it's around chapter 8, involving a character, and after the scene, it's like, please, can we just talk about this? And you really don't talk about it, to be honest with you. And I just feel like the game would have benefited a lot more from sticking on some of these moments and kind of going a little bit more into them. There's every possibility that we're looking at maybe some DLC or maybe a second game or something like that. And maybe when we get those, we'll get a little bit more fleshing out. But yeah, I really feel like there were a few moments in this game that needed more. Like, it just, something happens and that's it, we cut away from it. And I mean literally as it happened, you cut away from it and that's it, you don't really talk about it again. And it's like, what? To the point where I actually believed that something was going to have been fake until the very end of the game. And then we'd realise that, oh, it was all fake, it was a ruse, it wasn't a ruse, there was no ruse. So yeah, that's something that I think they could have done better with this game. Another thing as well, and this is a minor thing, but this really annoys me. Like, in the cutscenes, everything's voiced, everything's perfectly voiced, everything's fine, everything's wonderful. I love it. I love the voice acting in the game, it's just good. But when you're just kind of running around and conversing with people, you click on the text box comes up, and the character starts saying something that you're talking to, but what they say 90% of the time is not what's in the box. So you then still have to read the box. And it just feels like if you're going to have them say something, have them say what's in the text box. It just feels silly not to have them say what's in the text box. But that was a minor peeve that just annoyed me throughout my playthrough. It just really grated on me. And then one more thing, maybe a little bit more variety in the combat and the missions as you get towards the end. Like I did, like I say, all of the side missions and the main story, and things got real samey towards the end. So yeah, it would be nice if there's a little bit more variety, maybe different types of missions. I'm not really sure what shape they could take, but yeah, just a bit more variety would have been appreciated. But like I say, that's with me doing everything. So maybe I brought that on myself. And that's about it for the cons. I can't really think of anything else that particularly annoyed me. The controls were fine. Like I say, the pacing and everything like that was fine. It's a good game. It's a solid game. You can get stuck into it. I think it took me about 25, 30 hours to do everything. So, you know, you can get everything done in a reasonable amount of time, I think, which is good. All in all, it's a game I enjoyed a fair bit. But I can definitely see the flaws with it. A few tweaks to the narrative, and the bulk of my problems probably disappear. If you get rid of those abrupt moments in the narrative where something happens and then you just cut away from it and move on, I hated that. I need more. So yeah, you get rid of those moments and you add a little bit more context and a little bit more fleshing out on these moments, and the bulk of my problems go away. Because even if I did find the combat a bit repetitive towards the end, the fact that I played it that much that it became repetitive should tell you that I enjoyed the combat. Will we see more Diofield? I hope so. I genuinely hope so, and the ending does kind of set it up as if there's more story to be told. You know, we need to know what goes on after that ending, because things go down in the ending. Things go down throughout the game, but things really go down in the ending. And I can forgive the ending for being a little bit abrupt, because it feels like it's been left on an intentional cliffhanger for the future, either a DLC or another game, and I'd like to see it. For me, the game probably gets a solid 7.5 out of 10, which loads of people will be like, oh my god, that's a bad score. It really isn't. That's a good score. It's a solidly good game. It's enjoyable. I had fun with it. I'd play it again. I'd play the next, incarnation of it if they do bring out more. I'd be down. And as kind of like a pathway for more tactical RPGs to take in the future, the real-time tactical battle system is pretty fun. It's kind of like the equivalent of what Remake is, FF7 Remake to Final Fantasy VII. It kind of takes that turn-based aspect and kind of merges it with a real-time combat system. And yeah, it worked. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. But what about you? Have any of you played the Diofield Chronicle? Let me know what you're thinking about the game in the comments below. Are you interested in picking the game up? If you want to get a bit more information, like I say, head over to the second channel that I've got. All of my Diofield Chronicle playthrough will be going up on there, so you can, see a little bit more and get a bit more of a vibe for what's going on. But that's going to be it from me today. So thanks very much for watching. Hit like and sub, but more importantly than anything, have a great day.